Yeah, welcome folks. For those of you this is the third session. Congratulations, that's amazing. You've been able to see this all the way through. For folks where this is just your first or second session, then welcome. Hopefully this still makes sense without you having seen everything else. But it should. I mean, this we could have done even without the other things. But I think having covered all the things that we did before, that this should make a lot more sense because of that. So I guess I'm going to start off, before I get into this, and I do want to try and get through this whole thing in an hour, even though we've been about an hour and 10 minutes for our last ones. Does anybody have any lingering questions from our previous webinars that they need to sort of get answered that would help moving on? No, Chris, you're such an amazing teacher. You explained everything.
The one question
so well
I emailed you about, because a few people have asked me about, is the recording seeding densities in grams when product amounts are measured in ounces and kind of mixing and matching in a spreadsheet. I'm wondering if you said that that is possible, but not ideal. Could you speak to that just for a minute, just for clarity for people?
Yes, so I will. So, I mean, as a general rule, as a general principle, you always want to work in one set of units. You don't want to go between imperial and metric because it's just too easy to make a mistake. Somebody asks the seeding rate and you say 25 and you mean grams, but they do ounces. So there's a big discrepancy between a gram and an ounce. So, it's just not a good idea. Of course, I just say again that America should consider the metric system. But I understand how it is. And I still do things I don't do any of this stuff in ounces or pounds. I never have. But, I still measure my height in feet and lumber in feet. So, I understand how these things are a little bit of both. So in this demo I've done some of the conversions, and then I will leave it to folks if they want to add conversions. The conversions are really easy. So you can always have both displayed. And the way you do it is once you input one, the other one autofills automatically. So it can be done, just think as a general practice. And one thing somebody had said to me in an email is they find it's more accurate to do stuff in grams. And of course, that's not actually true. Ounces and pounds are just as accurate. It's a matter of decimal places. And I think often some scales, they'll say like 2.1 grams, but they won't say 2.1 pounds. They would say 2 1/8 pound, for example. And that's where you lose some accuracy. So when it comes to measuring stuff in ounces and pounds, you want a scale that does decimal places and not fractions. So then you're doing 2.15 pounds, and that's going to be just as accurate. So yeah, as a general rule, mixing units is not a great idea. So, but it can be done, and I do it a little bit here just to show you how the conversion looks. And I understand the need to a degree for that, but try to avoid it if you can. And of course, I would think nobody in the US is going to sell anything in grams. Everything would be sold by the ounce. So I could see why your labeling and stuff would definitely be ounces, and how you might want to measure your seed in grams. Totally makes sense. Yeah, so. Okay, I'm going to close. Yeah, I'm going to close my video there just so that doesn't record all that, and switch my screen. So I'm just going to do like a couple slides here, actually. So just to give a sense of what I'm covering. So basically what I'm going to do today is I'm going to build a spreadsheet from scratch. I built this spreadsheet already during the week. I've done this stuff, but it always takes a little bit of like, oh yeah, how did I do that again? So the three basic things we're going to cover are spreadsheet formatting, spreadsheet layouts, and then basically formulas, techniques, and features that I use within this. So, okay. So in terms of formulas, there's two major formulas that I use, and that is the filter formula and the sum-if formula. And then this if, error, unique, and roundup are sort of additional things we add to formulas in order to make them more accurate or more specific, or give us a desired outcome. So formulas can be very, very complex and very long, but I've tried to design this sheet so they are much more simple. In terms of some of the features we're going to use in Google Sheets, we're going to use data validation, grouping, and then I'll just talk about relational formulas, which is just a very basic concept in how spreadsheets work. And then some of the techniques I use. So one is called cheater cells, I call them, deleting cells and rows that we're not using. Color coding, I do a lot of color coding, and then just basic math. So this is the sort of stuff that that we're using to keep us on track here. Okay, so I'm going to change to now the. Okay, here we go. So folks can see the spreadsheet there. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so some stuff I'm going to just type in here, and other stuff I'm actually going to literally copy and paste from my other spreadsheet. So you can see, first of all, now when I do this, do you see the blank spreadsheet, or do you see actually see some cells filled out now? Still blank? Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to toggle between two spreadsheets and you're just going to stay on the blank one. Okay, good. So first things first is, let's start off with looking at the bottom here, and we've got some different tabs here. So we're working in a spreadsheet, and a spreadsheet is made up of multiple worksheets. And so we have 4 worksheets within the spreadsheet. We're going to do customers, crops and products, orders, and tasks. And so what I like to do in my spreadsheets is split up the different sort of components into its own section or into its own sheet. That helps with organization, and it also helps with formulas, because when things are formatted in different columns here and there, it just makes filters and things a lot easier. So it keeps things really simple. So we're going to start with customers and then go to crops and products, then orders. So this is kind of the order that we spoke about things when we were looking at the different elements of crop planning. And then we're going to end on tasks. And tasks is just a way of filtering our orders to make more sense. So let's see if I can do this in a relatively timely manner. Okay, so I'm just going to copy and paste here. So what I'm doing, I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to copy and paste the format for my other sheet, just to get us a little higher. And so in my customers, these are the things I'm going to put in here. Of course, I'm going to have my customer name. And you're going to have to excuse 2 things. One is my typing is atrocious. And 3, I've been having some trouble with my E key, which sometimes doesn't work. So then we're going to have our customer type. And then we're going to have our delivery route. So these are basically the fields that I'm going to use for my customers. I'm going to format these cells here just to be a little wider. So this is my general information I'm going to put in. Now this extra group here is going to be maybe a little confusing at first. I'm going to put type and route again. And one of the things I like to use in spreadsheets is called data validation. And that means instead of typing in information like I just did, we're drawing from sort of pre-entered information. And the reason to do that, basically, one is it means you're not typing anything, you're just picking something from a drop-down menu. And 2, it avoids spelling mistakes. And if you have a spelling mistake in a route or in a customer type, then it's not going to show up in a filter, because a filter generally filters things by something very specific, like a word or a number. So if that word is spelled wrong, it's not going to show up. So here, I've got some customer types already filled out. I'm just going to paste values only. And you guys can see these pop-up menus as I do them, right? Yeah. Just so you understand how I do some different things. So yeah, I'm just putting in values here. So these are just different types of customers I might have, restaurants, cafes, things like that. And these are my different routes. Now you might name your routes by like an area or a neighborhood or a direction. You know, we used to have like the Main Street route and the Kitsilano route. So you can name those things anything you want. But for the purposes here, we're just going to use a really basic name. And the reason I'm doing this stuff first is because I'm actually building the elements of the spreadsheet before I start putting in my customers. Now I'm going to go back to customer type here, and I'm going to use data validation. So I'm going to go up to data. I'm going to select data validation. And what we're saying is in this cell, I only want to be able to put in certain information. And we're going to use list from a range here. And so when I go over here, I click here and it says, select the data that you want to go into this cell or to choose from. So when I select this, This is my customer type. So I'm going to go into type. I'm going to select all these. So you can see I have many more cells there than I currently have filled out, which allows me to expand different types. If I'm like, oh, I need a new type of customer, so you can add it in there. So there's lots of room for new types. I have a drop-down list, so it's going to show a drop-down list. And if I put in something wrong, it's going to reject it. It's going to say, sorry, that can't go here. So when I hit save, you can see this little arrow shows up here. And now I just click on that arrow and I can pick one of these for my customer types. Now I'm going to do the same thing for delivery route. I'm going to go here, data validation. We've already got list from a range selected. I'm going to click here to choose my range. This is our range here. Hit OK, reject input, and save. So now we have our delivery routes here. I want my delivery routes everywhere, so I can click on that, drag that little box down. Ooh, a little too far. And we'll get to that, how to solve that problem momentarily. And there it just autofills all those. So this is sort of my sort of sheet is set up. This is the basic version here done. Now all these cells you've noticed are green. What do you think green means in a cell? I mean, what does green mean when you see it in a traffic light?
Go.
It means go. So green in a cell means go ahead, put some data in there. It's okay. So these ones, we're saying, yeah, if you want to put more stuff in here, great, go ahead. These ones, yeah, select something, put something in there. Now we don't know the customer yet, so we'll leave those. So are these data from Seedleaf? Can I import these values from my Seedleaf? You could copy and paste them from Seedleaf, but you couldn't export them from Seedleaf. Not yet, anyways. Yeah. Okay, so this is our basic framework. So I'm going to do a couple things here before I start putting our customers in here. I'm going to select, I'm going to hide this here. I'm going to select this G column. I'm going to hit Shift and my right arrow to select all these. Oops, just came undone there. Now, we don't need these cells. So I'm going to right click here and delete these columns. And then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to select this and Shift Control down arrow takes me right to the end. Right click and delete these rows. So I always delete the rows that I'm not using. I mean, there's no point in them being there, and it can actually slow down some calculations because Google will search all those cells and sometimes. So this is it. Our customer page is basically set up and ready to go, I think. So what I'm going to do, I've got a list of customers here. I'm going to pop them in here. Just going to paste the values only. So these are my customers here, and then I can go through and start giving them qualifications. So this is really easy. A buffer is a buffer, samples, samples. Main Street Market is a market. Coffee bar, we're going to call it cafe. Joe's Pizza is a restaurant. So just like that, we've got those all labeled. And then these are all going to be on different routes. And these are, of course, just being randomized. Route 4. The market doesn't really have a route because we do it on its own. So now we've got customers, we have their types there, and we have their routes there. So these are things that we can filter by. Now, for all intents and purposes, this is done, but I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to select all my rows. I'm going to right click over here. I'm going to select resize rows, and I'm going to resize these to 35. So this is something I learned, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to align all the text in the middle of the cell. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating space. And for those of you that have done any writing or editing, you know the importance of margins all around a page. And if you start putting too much information on the page, it gets harder to read. And it's one of the challenges with spreadsheets is there's just too much information on the page at one time. And so what we're trying to do is reduce the information that's on the page. And so just what's essential, and then it's easy to read because of the layout. I'll do two other things here. I'm going to make this narrower. I'm going to make these wider, and this one in particular. And then I'm going to take these two cells. I'm going to select them. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to more column actions, and I'm going to go to group And now I can sort of open and close that if I want, because this isn't something I'm going to be adding to every week or all the time. Like once those are in there, every once in a while, I might not add another type or another route, but for all intents and purposes, I don't need to see that. So now we've taken this and we just have our customers is basically 3 columns, simple as that. And this data is still available. It's just hidden. Okay, so questions on that? Does that make sense to everybody? I know we're moving pretty fast. And if you're not familiar with spreadsheets, you're like, oh, this is a waste of my morning. But yeah, some very basic concepts. And of course, you can go back and take a look at this video to get a sense of these things afterwards. Okay, now we're going to move. So yeah, again, a couple things we covered here. So data validation, which we're using here. We're color coding, so we have 2 colors. The green is like, go ahead and enter information there. The gray is what I use for my headings. All my headings and sort of titles are in gray, and then we'll introduce another color in the next sheet there. So yeah, very basic there. And you can see, obviously, our worksheet name makes a lot of sense. It's very obvious what this worksheet is for. Okay, now we're going to go to our crops and products. I'm just going to select this and copy the, I'm going to paste the format again here. It came out a little funny, but should still make sense. Okay. Okay, so here we are going to enter our crops and products in one sheet. So as you know, we grow a crop and we sell a product, and it's pretty easy to add them together. But a few things I'm going to do, I'm just going to make this. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take these cells, make them 35. So they're just nicer to work with. I'm going to take all these shells, shift control down arrow to delete all these. And then to the right should be fine. This is just basically going to go to the end. So this just gives me sort of a framework in which to work from, which I designed. You know, I've designed this ahead of time to make the workshop a little easier. And so that makes it simpler. Okay, so these cells, for all intents and purposes for the moment, should all be, oops, little funny thing happening there. Should all be green as well. And I want to get those filled in because they are ones that you can add data to, with the exception of row 4, which is going to be a conversion. Okay. So this just helps our layout. A, B, A. We're a little off here. Anyways, it'll all work fine. Okay, so I'm going to start putting some information in here. So on the left here are my titles. I'm going to just go paste values. So don't need this. So here's all the stuff we need to put in. And we talked about this stuff in the previous workshops. I kind of format as I go, which is a very bad habit. I'll actually just do your formatting at the end. So yeah, we're going to have our crop info, and here is going to be our crop name, our sowing rate in grams, our sowing rate in ounces. So we'll do the conversion, whether or not we're doing an overnight soak, days to maturity, days to germinate. I did do a days in blackout, and then what our expected yield is. And down here, we will do our product info for each one. So you can see each section here is going to be a unique crop and product. Now, so this crop is going to be sunflower. The sowing rate for this is going to be 125 grams. And then we're going to do the conversion here. So I'm just going to paste the formula. Oh, and that format just got a little wonky. It's fine. I'm going to center that. Do the same thing here. Oops. Center that. So here's my formula here. I put in the grams, and then my formula is basically, actually do it like this, is C3, or this whole cell C3, times 0.035274. So this is just the basic formula to go from grams to ounces. And then I know I'm going to want that later, so I can just copy that formula, take all those cells and paste it there. And so when we fill in a number, it's going to autofill there. And this does not get an overnight soak. I think I have the days to maturity as 8, days to germinate is 4, 1 day in blackout and 600 grams. And again, I'm just going to center these to make them easier to see. So I filled out the information for basically one crop there. Now, this is going to be my product info, and I'm going to do 3 sizes, a small, a medium, a large, and a tray. And I've set this up so my sizes are all relational. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my small size, which is going to be 100 grams. And to make things sort of uniform across my products, all my product sizes are going to be relative to my small size. And we talked about this in terms of small unit equivalents. So in this case, my medium is going to be 2.5. So this cell times 2.5. And my large is going to be my small, so C11 times 4.5. So you don't need to do this, but I mean, it means it's going to be really easy to make product sizing uniform across your products. And then the number of trays, well, trays is always 1, actually. So the grams and ounces don't actually apply. And then again, I can actually just take this formula here, the conversion formula we used up here, and copy that, and then paste it there in the formula. So it does that conversion. Then I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it into these 2 cells as well. So the conversion is done there. And so we can see that it all fills out. And again, tray is always just going to be 1. So one concept, if you don't know already within spreadsheets, is this idea of relational formulas. So this formula, as I mentioned, was like C3 times this number. But what the spreadsheet is actually saying is multiply the cell above me by this number. And so I can move that formula anywhere, and it's always going to say multiply the cell above me by this number. And so that's what I did here. I just wanted to multiply this cell above me by that number. So it's a really easy copy and paste. And so copying, pasting makes us can take like one section of a spreadsheet and make it very, make it easy to copy it into multiple sections, which can be useful if we have multiple crops. You noticed here, I have these orange cells. And so at this point, can anybody tell me what an orange cell is?
Variable number.
Yeah, so it's basically a formula. So let's pretend the analogy doesn't work anymore, but an orange cell, what do you think an orange cell means in terms of actions? Are you going to edit an orange cell? Yeah, don't fill in. Yeah. So I could have done the orange cells in red, and traffic lights, red means stop, but red just doesn't look nice in spreadsheets. So orange means whoa, 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 whoa. What are you doing? What are you doing is basically what an orange cell means. So it's calculated for you. You don't want to touch it. In some cases, you might, if you know spreadsheets well enough, you can manipulate formulas. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, it means just leave it be. So here we can see all 3 of our color codings at work. Now I'm going to do one more thing here. You can see I've got these extra cells on top. And these are what I call cheater cells. And they make formulas later in the spreadsheet a little easier. So I want this cell up here to equal this cell here. So what I'm doing, and then I want this cell here to equal the one to its left, and then the same here. So obviously these cells are just repeating what's down here. And what I'm trying to do is just make all these columns simpler. Because when I do filters later, I want to be able to get this number based on this product size and this crop. And it's easier to have individual cells, I find, than this sort of merged cell. It can sometimes make formulas a little complicated. So I just kind of do this here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this formula, and I'm going to paste it. Just paste this section and all my other sections here. And they're going to be empty because there's nothing there. But when I put in pea shoots, you can see it's going to fill out automatically. And so now it's just there to help things along. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to right click here, I'm going to hide it because I don't actually need that information to be shown. but it helps with calculations later. So it's there, it's going to autofill as soon as I add the crop, and I don't need to see it. So again, it makes my spreadsheet a little simpler. Here again, I can take these values here and I can just select all these and again, paste special values only and keep that alignment. And so it's repeating there. And then I can actually do the same thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to do the formulas here only. And there's a reason I'm doing this like this for now. And then I'm going to remove this 100 value. So my small sunflower might be 100, but as a model, other ones might not have a, your smaller size might be different, but the relationships will still stay the same. So in this case, let's put P at 100. Let's pretend our next crop, actually, I've already got all these crops listed in this other spreadsheet. So I will just copy them here. Paste special values only. Let's see if this works. There we go. It's a little better. And so they're in. And now some of these crops, the minimum size is going to be less than 100 grams because 100 grams would be a lot of, say, arugula. So for arugula, if I put it in at 40 grams, oh, yeah, okay. So getting ahead of myself here. I want to take that one out. This is the formula I'm going to copy and put in all the rest of these cells here. Paste special, formula only. And then again, all those relationships are in there and ready to go. So when I do add something, everything autofills automatically. So you don't need to do this relational. You know, you might, this can be totally arbitrary, but I like to do it this way just to be consistent. So you see, if I put in 40 for radish, everything else automatically fills out, except for that one. Just copy that and put it there. And then maybe buckwheat for whatever reason is 80. Now I see what happened there. So I'm just sorry, a few corrections based on some typing errors. Just copying this one over. Okay. So yeah, so I mean, this relational thing just makes things more consistent across your product ranges based on pricing. So that consistency is often good for your customers. So now basically all this stuff can get filled in, and you know it's going to be different for each crop. So I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet here, and I'm going to select these and hope this works. Let's just paste them as is. I think I just need to recopy that formula into those. So when I'm designing a spreadsheet, I often am like, oh, I made an error there, I made this here. So they're usually very easy to fix. And in this spreadsheet, I had some alternating rows and colors, which I'm not going to do. So let's just make it there. Okay. So here we've got a bunch of our crops sort of pre-filled, and you know, to make this a little simpler, let's select these and just make them a little smaller, right about there. Okay. So you can see relatively quickly, you know, I've gone and now I have all my crop information up here, and then my product information down here for a bunch of stuff, and then this can get filled in. See, I'm a little off there. This is what happens when you go a little too fast. Let's try that again. Copy that one. And fill all those ones out again. There we go. And I'm going to leave these ones blank for the time being. And the reason being is when we start to create our orders page, we're going to get some errors. And it's going to be like, well, I can't do any calculations because you don't have a size in here. I don't know what size I'm calculating for. Okay, so this is basically our crops and products page. We haven't done any data validation here or anything, but you can see we've done some conversions here with some formulas, so we can do both grams and ounces in both our product weight and our seeding. So we could easily go back and forth between the two. I'm going to select this row and go up here and reduce the number of decimal places because we don't need that many decimal places, and that simplifies it even more. Okay, so Any questions about that? I know we went through a lot of things very fast there. Does this make sense in terms of how we're organizing information at a very basic level?
Can you repeat for me what the formulas are for medium and large, since those are in orange?
Yeah, so here, so again, what I'm trying to do is have all my products be the same relationship. So no matter what the small size is, the medium is always 2.5 times my small. So there's just C11 times 2.5, and the large is just 4.5 times the small.
Got it.
Right?
Thank you.
Totally arbitrary and whatnot, but so you can use that or not. These could all be green cells and you could individually, but it's just consistent. I just put in one size and all my sizing is done. Simple as that. One thing we could add here, which I thought I did add it. Hold on a second here. I took it out. The other thing we might have in here at the bottom, actually we can show, I'll do this from scratch, is our price. So my price here might be 5. This can actually be this times 2. And my large can be equals. So every formula always starts with equals this times 3. So again, and then I'm going to select this and select format number Canadian dollar, which is going to be the same as the American dollar. And then my tray size, we'll just say it's say $20. And so again, this one would be green because it's a number I'm filling in. And I like consistent pricing across the board, so I can just select that. And oops, why are you doing that? Copy that. And now those all auto-fill in there. So now my pricing is done there, and that can, I need to do it. Yes, you do need to do this on your own. So yes, I mean, this is good to see go through. You can refer to the sheet. I did put the link in there and we'll share it later. And then watching the video again will help. And if I wanted to make things even a little more clear for these, I could select these, go into my borders, select a heavy line, left, oops, not that way. Select a section. So these are basically individual sections for each crop. Got my heavy line selected. And that just helps better differentiate things. I could do an outside border. Oops. Anyways, I won't get into that. You do the formatting that you want to do. I like to do thick outside borders and thin inside borders. It helps me see things. Just helps really kind of differentiate these different sections. Yeah, so you can do whatever you want there. Okay, so yes, it's important to go through these things yourself, but sometimes seeing things is like, oh, okay, that's how that's done. And these are the 2 easy sheets. I mean, all we're doing here is getting our base information down so we can do orders. Now orders get a little more, oh, there's no way we're getting this done in an hour. Okay, here's our order sheet. Oh my God. Here, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you here what we're attempting to build here. So this is the sheet we're going to attempt to build really, really quickly here. And I don't think we're going to be able to do it. So if you need to leave and go on to something else, feel free. And obviously we can go through it fairly quickly because it is already built. But it's going to be hard. Okay. Actually, I'm going to keep this one up for a second and give you a sense of what we're going to do first, because this is in sort of different sections. So this is basically broken into 3 sections for our orders, and it seems really complex, but the idea is here, here's where we're starting to take our information and do some math and do some filtering. So this first section here, I'm actually going to close these sections. Here's our basic section. Here's the section we're going to use on a day-to-day basis, putting in our orders, our customer, our product, our size, our quantity. And then the price here doesn't autofill. I just made it so we manually put it in, but we could have it so it autofills as well. Again, all these orange ones, they autofill because they're calculated. So once I know 10 small sunflower, the spreadsheet formula here, you can see up here, is going to calculate how much is needed there. The type is going to fill because we know that based on this. The route is going to fill because we know that based on our customer. And the total here is just this times this. So it's really, really basic in that regard. Now, these sections here are taking all this information plus our crop and product information and sort of laying it out and doing some calculations here and repeating some information in order to generate our tasks. And the idea is, I mean, this as a basic crop planner is great, but it doesn't tell you how many trays to sow, when to sow them. This tells you how many trays to sow and when to sow them, but the layout actually isn't ideal. And that's why we end up creating another sheet, which is our tasks sheet. So this is what we're going to try and build here very, very quickly. Okay, so let's go back to our blank sheet. And I am going to copy and paste our format. So let's start off with all this, Control C. And because I just copied and pasted a whole bunch of stuff, it's actually taking a moment to get it out there. So this is our basic format here. I'm going to take my titles and put them in here just to make this. Okay, there we go. Here to start giving us some shape. So there's our customers' products and whatnot. And then a little feature up here is our harvest number, which is going to be harvest 1. So this just kind of helps, you know, once we do a few other calculations, helps keeps things organized to get a sense of where we are in our season, basically. And then this cell here, I'm going to use data validation. And this is going to be a date. And if it's invalid data, and that way I can just double click on that and I can put a date in there. So that's going to be a green cell. I'm going to quickly select all these columns again, all the way to the bottom. I'm going to resize those rows to 35 because I find it tedious to look at a spreadsheet with cells that close together. Jump back up to the top. So you can see we're kind of taking shape here. We're going to come back to these cells momentarily because those are some cheater cells for us. Actually, no, this one here. Here we're going to use a formula called sequence. And because we want to have a list of numbers here, so we know how many orders or different order items we have in a week. We're going to do 25 rows, 1 column. We're going to, oops, these should be commas, 25 rows, 1 column, start at 1 and increase by 1. So it's automatically going to fill that into 25 spaces there. These ones here are some cheater cells, which are going to equal this cell, which is our date. And then this, everything else in here, this is going to equal this one. And then I'm just going to keep copying these here. So every cell equals the one above it. And so now the date that's going to go here, and we'll just put in June 24th. And I'm going to change the format there to this and center that. Put it in bold and slightly bigger so it stands out. So these here equal this. Now you can't see them because I've made the text white. And if I make the text black, it shows up, but we don't need to see that. It's just a cheater cell. So I keep the text white, keeps it hidden, reduce that cell down. Okay. What do you guys think I'm going to put in this, this customer cell here? And in this product cell and in this size cell? What are we going to do there based on what we did in our customers page?
Can you copy and paste it over from the other one?
Do I want to copy and paste here? I don't know who my customers for June 24th are yet. Do you remember one of the features we used earlier?
Would it be the drop down arrow?
So what we're going to do, we're going to do data validation. Exactly. So we're going to go here to customer, data validation, list from a range. So I'm going to select this range, and now we're going to go over to that sheet and basically here, save that, go back to there. I'm going to take this cell. If you take this and just slide it down, customers are done. So now I can only select a customer from my list. We're going to do the same thing from product. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to data validation. This one's going to be slightly different from a range. And our range is actually going to be here. So we're going to select this row instead of columns like we did before. reject input, because if we do a mistype of a product, there's no information for sunflower, only for sunflower. So spelling mistakes can be really dangerous. So we're going to do this here. Oops, too far down there. That's done there. And then we're going to do the same thing for our sizes here. We're going to go to data validation, from a range, go back to our products. And I mean, really, we actually just need this range, or we could type a range, but we're just going to keep it simple like that. Take this here again. So even though they're drop-down menus, it's still a green cell because it's like, yeah, go ahead, do something here. But for the other ones, not. And then I'm just going to fill this in. Our price is, oh no, we're going to leave that. Our total here, our formula is going to always equal our price times our quantity. So I can take that. And again, these are all relational. So I can just copy this down to here. And that's good to go. So price is going to autofill. Now, here's where we're going to start getting into some of the more complex formulas. We're going to create some filters. So what I want this cell to be, I'm going to create a filter that says filter. So let's do, it's easier with data. Just going to make these a little wider. So I've got a sunflower in there, and I'm going to do small and 10. So my filter here is going to be this idea that I want you to go to my crops and products page, find sunflower, and find size, small, and find out how big that is, and multiply that by 10 and put that here. So I'm going to copy the formula so I don't have to remember it, and then I'll walk through the formula here. So I'm going to just paste the formula only. So you can see it as I put it in, it did the math. You know, our small size is 100 grams. I have 10 of them, so it's 1,000. So here's the formula here. We're going to, I know if spreadsheets are really new to you, then this is going to be like, but for some of you, it might be a reminder. So first of all, it's F4 times, and we're filtering. We're filtering our crops and products by row 11, row 1, and row 10. So when I hit enter here, see how it's saying these are some of the things in your, this is the highlighted cells I'm using. Oh, it doesn't highlight them over here, unfortunately. So what it's saying is, so I just want to go back to, so we're using 11, 1. So the filter formula is, just need to move this over because it's not showing. There we go. So here you can have it. So it's saying, what range do you want me to filter? And what are the conditions? So I'm saying, we want to filter row 11. This is the number we want to draw from. And what's row 11? Row 11 is our weight. So I need you to find the weight that corresponds with row 1 and row 10 equaling these things. So I want row 1 to equal sunflower, and I want row 10 to equal small, and then return the number in row 11 that corresponds to those. Okay, so I'm going to open up my cheater cell here. Row 11, or where row 10 is small, and row 1 is sunflower, the value there is going to be 100. And if I change that small to an M, the value is going to become 250. So if I change this to medium, it's going to do the same filter. And what it's saying now is, hey, where the row is medium and the crop is sunflower, now the value is 250. And obviously, if I change this to L, it's going to be 450. So I'm going to keep this as small. So this is how filters work. You're saying, go to this row and pick the number that matches these filters. So does that make sense to folks? Because now what we're basically doing is just filtering it by different things. Now we're going to filter types. So I'm going to filter my customers this time. So my formula there, which I will copy. Actually, we'll do customer and route at the same time here. Is paste formula. So it's basically saying, go to customers, look for column B. So here we're sorting by columns. Column B is our types. So I want you to filter the column type where customer in column A equals this, and where it isn't blank. So I often do a lot of, I find it's good in Excel to say, don't filter blank cells, because we always have a lot of blank cells and sometimes you get formula errors. So the formula for not blank is these 2 out arrows and then 2 quotations without anything in them. And then here I use this if error formula. And so sometimes you get like a reference error or a not applicable or something like that if the filter returns no results. And I don't want to see that. I just want to see a nice little dash here. So I add this little bit into the formula here that says, if there's an error or if the cells are blank, just put a little dash instead of an error. So if I was to change this to, if it even lets me, Bob, see, won't let me put Bob in there because Bob's not a customer. But if I was to go into Laura's Lounge here and remove the route and the customer type and go back there, nothing's going to show up there. So actually, there's not an error. It's just, there's just nothing to filter. So it doesn't really matter in that case. Okay. Okay, so that kind of makes sense to folks. And I'm going to put in a price there. Our smalls are $5. And obviously, the total ends up being that. So these formulas here are good to go. So I'm going to delete this data because I don't want to do it. And now I'm going to just take this row and I'm going to take this here again. I'm just going to drag it all down here. And now all my formulas are done for this section. So what I've done is I've set it up. So these are all my orders for this date. And you can see I've got more things down here. So I'm going to have this sheet for different dates. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these rows together. I'm going to select row 3 here through to the bottom of this, which is 28. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to more row actions and go to group rows. And that's what creates this little grouping up here. So now I can just close that if I don't want to see it. Like once June 24th has passed, I don't need to see that information anymore. So I just want to close it. And this is a format I'll end up doing with all of these. So I haven't filled this next section in yet. But I'm just going to do the same thing here. And there's a reason I'm doing it here. Come on, you. We're going to group these rows. And now I'm actually going to select again. So, and then this, so I'm skipping ahead to my next week to give you a sense of how this all fits together. This is going to be harvest again. And because we have a relational week to work with, this number is actually just going to equal the number above plus 1. You could find the plus button, Chris. There you go. And this is going to equal the week above, the date above, plus 7. And I'm just going to make that an orange cell because it's a calculation. I'm going to center that there and make that 12 and bold it. And then these I can copy in there. So the reason I'm doing this in week 2 is the way these sheets work is week 1 kind of the formulas are slightly different than the other weeks because all the other weeks are relating back to week 1 because we want to filter by date, not just by the columns, because you can see we're going to have customers and products in every week. And if we don't have dates, then it's just going to draw from all the different dates and we end up with an error there. So what we've basically done here now is set up our orders. We can put this stuff in quite easily. And things fill out and it'll do that all along there. So that's sort of ready to go for week 1. So makes sense there in terms of how that all sort of gets into that point. Good, okay. So the next part here is, okay, we have that stuff. Now, how do we make some formulas out of it? Oops. Just need to close this. So I'm just gonna get my next bunch of headings here and paste those values in there. So this section here, I'll just put a line here to help differentiate because this will be another one. So now what we want to do is we want to take our order information, we want to filter it based on our orders. And so I'm just going to copy a whole row of formulas here and put it in here and then kind of walk through these. So, okay. I skipped something. Damn it. I'll have to go back and do that again. So one thing I did in the original, which I didn't do this, I'm going to come back here, is, I mean, you can see in our formulas here, we had a lot of like column A, column B, row 11, row 1, row 10. And that gets to be a little tedious after a while because you're like, what's row 11? What's row 10? So you can go through and you can name your ranges. And so in order to make this easier, I can go through, I can select row 1, and I can do define the named range. So what I can do is create this name that makes it easier. So this can be like crop and product name. And so I've named that row, which is my crop and product name, and there can be no spaces. That way, when I'm doing formulas, that way, when I'm doing formulas, although they're already in here from the previous sheet, I don't need to find the cells. I can just actually type in, this is going to be days to maturity. This is going to be days to germination and days in blackout and whatnot. So I'm not going to do that here because, again, it takes a little more time, but it messed up my formulas. How can I get by this? I don't think I can. Just thinking, we might have to do this in 2 sessions. So let's see how we get here. So what we're doing here, though, and you can see these little dashes in here means there's errors. So you know what? Maybe I am going to need to go back and name these ranges. Let me just see what I can get away with here. So if you have questions right now, this would be a good time to ask them. Just going to take a quick look here. These are in here. I'm surprised they're not showing up. So let's delete this range. Could be because it's on a different sheet. This is one of the challenges with copy and paste, but they are there. Funny. Okay. Let me explain what it is we're actually doing here before I get into, can't see what I just did. Yeah, sorry, I know we're moving a little fast in some of this stuff. So now that once we have our orders in here, we're taking this information, we're kind of sorting it again. So I just need to, we're sorting it again so we get all our information together. So in order to keep our formulas simple again, I want to pull all my product information over here so I can do some calculations with it. And with my days to maturity, my days to germination, and my days to blackout, I can start calculating what date I need to do my soaking and sowing and removing the weight and removing blackout on, because those are all based on my relationship between my date of harvest and my days to germination. So the calculations there are quite simple, but if I don't sort of filter the information to add it here, then what happens is these formulas need to span multiple sheets and be very complex. So this is a way of simplifying my formulas. Theoretically, using named ranges should be simplifying my formulas as well, but clearly in this case, it is not. So let me just see. Funny at those. I don't know why those are not working in this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat, sorry, and we're going to go take a look at the other sheet, which is completed here. So that was the biggest sheet ever, and I apologize. But what I wanted you to see is the sheet being built. Now you're just seeing the sheet as it was built to save us on time. So what this is doing here, so what I'm doing is I'm filtering everything in this range for this date, so just D4 to D28, where they're not blank and where they're unique. And so I just want you to take everything here and list it here. So you can see these are all the crops we've got here. We have multiple sunflower and whatnot, but they only show up once here. So this just filters them by unique, which means no matter how many times they show up here, They only show up here once. Now, for all intents and purposes, these formulas right here are just filters drawing from our products. So it's basically saying, hey, where the crop is this, does it want an overnight soak? You know, yes or no, and then it fills it in. It goes again, it says, hey, what's our days to maturity when forget this filter for now, when the crop and product name basically equals this, what is our days to germination, what is our blackout days, what is our yield? So basically what it does is based on this name, fills this information in, which is all the same information which was in a other sheet. It just brings it over here to make more accurate formulas. Then what it does is it takes our total, what basically, again, it says where the products equal this. So where our products equal sunflower and our date equals June 24th, take all these products weights here and add them up. So it's our 1,000 plus our 2,250 plus our 2,500, add them up here. And then trays needed is basically this divided by this. Simple as that. I need this many grams. This is what my yield is per tray. This is the trays needed. And that's the basic formula right there. Our total divided by our yield, but I'm rounding up like we talked about. And I'm putting in the if error, because if you end up dividing by zero, you can't divide by zero. So it just makes it a little easier. So we're rounding up there. So this is just a basic formula of these two here. And you can see the formulas in there are all quite simple. And several of them you can see again. So I'm going to show an example. In this case, I'm saying don't draw the blank cells because I don't want you to draw from these cells down here. Now our soak date and our sow date and our remove date, move weight and our remove blackout are all just formulas, right? Very basic formulas, which is basically this based on these numbers here. And you can see how it is. Our days to, it's basically, our harvest minus our days to maturity equals our soak date. Our sow date equals our soak date unless there's an overnight soak like there is with pea here. So it has an overnight soak. So our soak date is this day. Our sow date is the next day. Our remove weight day is again our sowing day plus our days to germination. And then our remove blackout date is our remove weight date plus our days on blackout. So these are all just relational formulas now that become very simple based on pulling this information over there. So because you didn't get to see me build that, does that make sense to people about how this information is getting there? So you can see we've used some very simple formulas and we've been able to sort and organize our information into a way that makes a lot of sense. And so that's the basic. And again, I'm just going to now take those formulas and copy them down into each section. And then they're there. They autofill automatically and every section is done. Now I'm going to skip the next bit and maybe Laura, we can talk about actually doing, we could actually add on maybe another week in the future or next week to do some of this more advanced stuff to show how I copy this into other weeks, because that'll take a little bit of time and I want to get on to show you how we filter the tasks. But in general, see how I've done this here. Basically, I've just been able to make these collapsible sections. And so for each week that I want to look at, I just open that week. And so as I move into the future, I don't have to worry about these other ones. So if this ends up being, if I double click here and change this date to my first harvest. So the first Friday in January is January 7th. It changes all those dates there. And then, right now we're in June, right? So if I'm thinking about the June 24th date, I don't want to think about all this stuff. So a couple things that I'll just talk about briefly that happen in subsequent weeks. So most of this information is the same. So this is week 1. In week 2, it's all the same, but there's a couple differences. So I have this column here, which is actually called days from week 1. And so because we want to relate everything to our first date, this is kind of just another cheater cell that says, filter all this stuff based on a date that is 7 plus this. because filtering by this date and these cells is really difficult because there's so much information in there. We won't get into that now. But this week's formulas, all these cells actually just copy from the week before. So every week here, any week I open at this point, actually has the exact same order as the week before. Now, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to have my order? A couple of reasons, several reasons. Why would I want to have my order for next week be the same as this week? So yeah, good. So hopefully you have repeat customers. Like the goal is standing order. Every week you're getting 10 of this, 5 of this, some of those. Great. So that's the base premise. What's the other reason, or what's another reason? I mean, 2 that are quite related. Okay, so reason number 1 is if you have a repeat customer, well, I don't want to put that same information in again. I've already done that information, so I don't have to put information in. It fills it in automatically. The second thing is if you forget to put that information in, you're not gonna sow enough crop. So if the information auto fills, at the very least every week, you're going to sow the same amount you sowed last week, at the very least. That way, if you forget, you've always got information in there. And my rule of thumb is if I have to choose between having too much crop or too little crop, I will always have too much crop. Too much crop means a little bit of extra expense because I had labor and seeding costs. Too little crop means a huge loss in revenue because, you know, this $3 tray is I've lost $25 in sales. So we learned this. It took us a while to figure this one out with the food peddlers. We're like, forgot to put that order in. We're like, you know what? Let's just have the orders repeat every week. And you can edit them. Once they're in there, you can edit it. I can change these numbers and those will continue on to the next week. But yeah, what I don't want to do is have stuff not be in there. So the other thing I did is I made these other sections here collapsible because we don't need to see them. This is our basic order sheet. That other stuff is just used for calculations, basically, so we can sort our tasks in another sheet. So we've taken all that complexity, which is really front-loaded work, and made it really simple. And this is it. This is all I'm going to put in to my orders. It's all I ever need to see. Now, one thing we didn't do in here, and I know once at least one of you is cursing me, you'll probably notice we don't have any product mixes in here. Now, product mix, I mean, it would take us 2 hours just to cover the formulas needed for product mixes. So I apologize for that, but it's just, I mean, I would have to go and relearn how I calculated product mixes. It's so complex. So that's why it's not in here. But hopefully the general sense of things here does help you understand that. And it could be something we actually set up as just a standalone, Laura, is just adding product mixes to the sheet. I would do that another time when we can add that. So, okay, so little pause there so I can have a little more coffee and some water. And if you have any questions, this would be a good time.
I have a quick question about the totals column, and maybe you'll get to this, but do you have any way to reflect if a customer has a credit on their account and then therefore how much they owe based on the current total and how much credit they have? So
the short answer is no. So basically, this is a crop planner. It is not a sales recorder. And so that is one. So when we think of Seedleaf, the software we're doing online, it's something that we want sort of all encompassing. So when you're using something like this, you can incorporate that in, but again, then it's a whole bunch more work. So you could do that. Generally, the way we've done it, which isn't a bad model, is this is for planning, and our invoicing program like QuickBooks or whatever you're using, that's where you keep track of those things. Yeah. Yeah. But it is possible to do it in this. We'd need many more sheets because this is our expected orders, and then we would have to create another sheet called our actual sales, basically, right? Because they don't always work out the same. You know, Laura's Lounge may have 10 small sunflower, and then you get there and Laura's like, I only want 8 today. I'm like, Laura, you've got a standing order, Laura, what's going on? We have an agreement. well, you're a pretty good customer, so we're going to let you off. This is the reality of, we want to be strict, but you want to make your customers happy. So yeah, because those things change. Yeah. Now what you could do actually is you could change it here. But then it changes all your other numbers. And if you have costing built into here, it's gonna mess up your costing. So yeah, these things do get complex. And the big version of the spreadsheet is like 15 worksheets. So that kind of accounts for all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. So the reason we have all this stuff here on the side is because we want to use this to get our tasks into a better order. And because of this, like this is good. These dates are important, but I kind of have to filter through here to find my date. I mean, maybe I should get to a more relevant time period here. If I come into around now, I mean, I'm looking, okay, actually, I guess I should be in the future. What do I have to do today? So today's June 20th. I don't have to do anything today for this week, but maybe I should check next week just in case. No, this is okay. I mean, I'm kind of looking for June 20th, and it's a bit of a pain. And so that's why we have the tasks page. So the tasks is basically just another type of filter. And this is only a filter page. I mean, the only thing you put in here is, so this filters your tasks for a set week. And you can see we've got our gray cells, which are our headings, our orange cells, which are calculations. And I just have two different shades to make this a little more readable. And then we have our green cell, which is only just this one right here. The thing I did not do, which I'm going to do now, is select all these and resize my rows because that is driving me nuts. There we go. Such a relief. And again, so first thing I do is, I mean, for most people, the beginning of your week is either Monday or Sunday. So let's just say it's, this is a data validation. Let's just say in this case, it's Sunday or Monday, but maybe for you, it's Sunday. So when you choose the first day of your week, this stuff all autofill. So the dates all autofill, just like the other one. This is just one day. And so we know our tasks for the week. Then these filters again, this filter basically says, find the crops that are soaked on this date. And and are not blank. This one has a not blank in there. And so it puts it in there. And you can see, so if we look at this week, so here's today. I have no trays to soak. I have no trays to soak. Oh, but I'm going to be uncovering. Oh, yeah, that's not there. I'm going to be uncovering these trays. So this breaks it down here. And then when I look to tomorrow, I'm going to be soaking amaranth and sowing amaranth. I'm going to be soaking pea on Wednesday. So I'm getting a sense of my week here. Now, day 5 here is a good one to look at because I'm soaking some stuff. And I wouldn't even soak those seeds. And then I'm sowing some stuff. It's got the amounts here. And then it has this column here that says soaking for harvest on. Now, the reason this is here is because this is my last chance to double check that all my sunflower orders and all my arugula and all my kohlrabi orders are in for July 1st. So before I do these activities, what I do is I go back to my orders. I find July 1st, which is here. And I go through here. I'm like, okay, we've got all these, we've got all these. It's like, oh, Laura said she wanted 15 sunflower this week. Right. So I want to change that. And oh, we sold out of sunflower at the Main Street Market way too early. So we're going to bump that up to 35. So yeah, I think those are all the changes I want for this week. And then I go back and now I'm doing 13 trays of sunflower instead of 10. So this is just a reminder to double check your orders before you soak, because once you soak and you're done, I mean, that's it. And so it makes it really, really easy to do that double check. Where these say soak, I know at least one of you is going, you don't soak those seeds. You're right. And in order to make these not appear, it's just more complex formulas. So they're just there in order to allow this to show up. So I'm not soaking it, but I am sowing it, and we can kind of just consider them the same thing with seeds like this. And so they're there to go. And then again, same thing. So, I mean, Sunday's passed. I don't need to see that. So I can close that up. And then by the time I get to Thursday, it's just like, I don't need to see this information anymore. So I just need to see what's happening on Thursday. And again, so these are all just very simple formulas. I'm filtering orders L to L, which is my crop, where the date basically equals this, and it's not blank. Very, very simple formulas. And so once those are all in and fills in, the date autofills. I don't know why these zeros are here. These ones are showing up as blanks. These ones are showing up as zeros, just a weird formula tweak, doesn't really matter. And then I can just close all these if I don't want to see them at all. So like as a sort of overview of what we've done, and then we can go into question. This is the fully built one. So we started off with our customers. We have a bunch of data validation, which makes entering information consistent and easy. And so there's no spelling errors in here, which means our filters are going to work perfectly. We've got our crops and products built in here. And you can see I've got a little bit more formatting here with the solid rows and or the solid lines splitting these up. I can hide that top one there. And so these are all sort of good and ready to go. And then our orders. Yeah, so I'm just going to close these again. Going into week 2. This is our basic, this is the basic place where we're putting our orders on a week-to-week basis. And this model only has 25 rows, so it's probably not enough for, some bigger operations. But if you just got a few customers, it's perfectly fine. And you can add rows all you want. It's just you need to add rows for all of them. So in the version we sell, there's like 125 rows per week, which means there's like 15,000 rows on this page, which is ridiculous. And then we've got this section here, which is basically, these are basically all cheater cells, which help filter that information. So it's moving filtered information from other sheets into this sheet, and it's doing our calculations. So we know all the dates that our tasks take place on. And then our tasks here are just basically organized in a manner that allows me to basically go, this is the ultimate question in microgreens production. What am I doing today? And I don't have a harvest date on here because your harvest date should be obvious. It's a fixed date every week, and you could also have this is harvest day little thing here as well. But this just keeps your information organized, so it's really, really easy to reference things, and you don't have to find your date or you don't have to find the information. It's laid out and displayed perfectly for you there. So, any questions about that? So, I mean, think about this, Laura. I think we could do another session where we could add some stuff to this. I mean, this is definitely the basics, but we could spend some time going a little more into formulas and into some of that stuff. I mean, folks here can decide if you want to do one or two more of these, if that would be helpful. But as it is, like this basically will help you build a functioning crop planner. I'm going to paste this, the URL for this in there. And this is, I'm just going to make sure it's shareable. So you can do that, but you can only view this. So this is the thing. This is in view mode. So the idea is you need to build this yourself. It's important that you go through those steps. Because you will learn a lot that way. I mean, you just learn a lot about the relationships and all that stuff within your crops. And I mean, what would be great is if some of you do add stuff like I mean, if you want to think of really simple things to do, build your sheet and then set it up so the price autofills using a filter. Should be very, very simple. You're going to add, like we did earlier, you can add your pricing in below, and then you can create this filter to fill in this price based on the crop and the size. Very, very simple. So if you build it, they will come. Yes.
Yeah. Can you add ounces under the grams for your sowing weight? So if I know you have it on the crop, the product.
Oh, so you're thinking here?
No, back on your
yeah, so your sowing weight is here.
So your sowing rate is in ounces. Can you put it in grams? Can you put ounces under that Like.
Yeah, it is here. This is grams here, and this is your sewing rate in grams. This is your sewing rate
Okay.
in ounces. Yeah,
Oh,
that's already done. And that's already done
Okay.
for the product weight here is the grams and ounces.
I see.
However,
Okay.
you'll notice here that this is actually crop required in grams.
Okay.
So if you wanted, you can copy this. And this could be your crop required in ounces. And then you're just going to create a filter. So this is the filter based on row 11, which is our grams. And then what I can actually do is I can copy this filter here. Oh no, so this is a relational formula, and it's based on this E, and this E, if you put I can't even explain this. I'm going to get a little. So yeah, so basically it's basically this same formula, but you're going to change this 11 to 12, and all these other things are going to stay the same. Yeah, and actually you just need to, this changes how that works. Let's just see if that works. That's not right. So when we change that to 12, that should work. I'm not sure if that autofill is correct, so we're going to ignore that. So yeah, so this would be you're sewing it in ounces instead of grams, basically. Yeah, or the amount required in ounces instead of grams. Yeah. If you do use seed leaf, is this then necessary? Not at all. I mean, here's the truth of it all. This is very complex. It takes a lot of time, and you should just buy seed leaf, and that would be so much easier. But actually, I mean, building these spreadsheets and going through these spreadsheets helps you really understand your production cycle. I mean, building these things is probably the #1 thing that's helped me understand my cycles, my finances, the relationships between crops and the tasks. I mean, this is why I know this stuff so well. I mean, I have done hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hours of spreadsheet work over the years, just trying to refine these things, filter information, and also determining like, what do I need to know and what don't I need to know? I mean, there's all sorts of ways to filter this information. Sales by customer, sales by route, sales by customer type. But some of the key things are like, I need to know what to do and when and how much. That's the key thing that this is meant to do, to make sure you've got enough product to meet your order needs. Second, there's one more spot. Yeah, so again, here you could have your yield in grams and ounces in both, so you could do that. Yeah, so it could easily be in both. Other questions? How many of you are going to build this spreadsheet this week? Some of you are, yeah, good. So yeah, so you'll have, how do I make this bigger? I can't see more of you. I'm going to stop, actually, this is what I'm doing. Stop the share. There we go. This way I can just see people. And I'm actually going to also, I'm going to stop recording, but I think, have I stopped recording already? I don't think so.